So my tone is a conglomerate of a lot of things, obviously. My touch, the way I choose my dynamics during a phrase, the amp I choose to play through, the way I set up my guitar, and also the attitude that I have the day of the session or the solo I'm playing. That you hear all of those elements come together to create a tone for the time I'm playing the guitar. And when it comes to my gear, my current gear especially, to help me achieve and keep the tone I like, my dear friend and my technician, Rick Wheeler, can show you my gear and show you exactly what my settings are.
Hi everybody, I'm Rick Wheeler. I'm Larry Carlton's guitar tech, and I have the great privilege of touring the entire world with Larry, helping him set up his equipment and getting him the tone that he needs to do his job as one of the world's greatest guitar players. I'm here today to run down his road rig and show you a little bit about how he gets the tone he does and the equipment that he uses. And we're going to start today by just taking a look at this incredible Dumble amplifier made by Alexander Dumble. We're looking now at the Overdrive Special amps built by Alexander Dumble, and we have two of them that Larry takes on the road with him everywhere he goes. The top black one is number 142, and the bottom blonde one is number 118. They are essentially the same amplifier. They are powered by 4 Sovtek 5881 output vacuum tubes, and the input section is 3 12AX7s. Let's take a look at Larry's settings on these amplifiers, and I'll comment a little bit about each one. The initial pre-stage of the amplifier is this volume control on the left. Larry actually uses this a fair amount for different types of tone settings. The standard setting that he would use is to have this set on 4 and his output set on 4 as a starter. However, if he wants a little crunchier tone, he wants to overdrive the input section a little more, of course he would turn that up. Into the preamp section, we just have what is very standard for guitar amplifiers: a treble, a mid-range, and a bass control. Prior to that, there are 3 switches. One is a bright switch, one is a deep switch, and one is a rock or jazz switch. They are essentially variations in the tone, and they're a little bit of Alexander's secret ingredient, if you will. On the overdrive section, these 2 controls are triggered by a foot pedal that sits on Larry's pedal board. When those are engaged, then the tone has a bassier or treblier aspect to it, and then of course the volume of the overdrive is what is controlled in the output section as well. When we're at the very end of the output section, we of course have his overall volume, which very rarely goes beyond this setting of 4, mostly because the pre is what's determining his tone. The output is pretty consistent in terms of an overall volume level for Larry. And presence is just what that is. It's a variation in tone that allows him to get a clear tone, even though some of his tones prior to this might be a little crunchier, if you will. Whenever we set up the equipment, I always make sure that from the previous night we document the settings and that we set up both of the amplifiers in the same configuration in case we need to switch from one or the other. We're going to go on now to his specially designed cabinet, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. This is truly one of the finest speaker cabinets I've ever heard, and I've heard plenty of guitar cabinets in my life. This is a single 12-inch EVM 12L speaker with a closed back for the cabinet, but specially tuned for harmonics with 2 cylindrical baffles designed by Alexander Dumble. This is really what gives it its fine sound. Now, the EVM 12L is a spectacular speaker, very rugged. It's rated at 200 watts, fantastic. But in this specially designed cabinet with these 100-watt heads, it really sings. We used two mics on this, one for Larry's effects and one to go to front of house and monitors, so that no matter what output is happening from this cabinet, we're able to control it at Larry's effect level and also at the front of house. It's absolutely fantastic, and if there's any way you can get one, I would highly recommend doing so. I'd like to tell you a little bit about how Larry gets the great effects part of his tone. And the real miracle here, I think, is that the effects never go through his main guitar cabinet. Just as if a guitar player was recording in the studio, you would mic the guitar cabinet and then you would add effects to that sound. We do the same thing with his rig on the road. We mic his cabinet, we send it through a Mackie mixer to hit the effects, and then from the mixer we route to a Roland SDE 3000 digital delay. We have an Lexicon 400 for reverb, and we have a TC 1210 chorus unit. Each one of these is on an aux send, but returns in stereo, so that Larry can have the ability to mix more or less of each effect per the song he's doing or per the venue, or however he feels he needs to make adjustments in his tone. Now these all come through a powered monitor that sits on either side of his cabinet to give him the true feeling of being in the studio with separate control of his effects and his guitar cabinet. Once again, just to talk about how Larry gets his effects, it's very analogous to how you would see it in the studio, with the guitar cabinet itself mic'd, and the mic hits the effects. The effects are again routed out through some powered monitors that sit on each side of his cabinet. So we get no effects whatsoever. It's pure guitar tone out of his cabinet, and then effects only through the powered monitors on each side of his cabinet. We have a very wonderful and magical way of using an outboard unit to help us get great sound on Larry's acoustic guitar. This Avalon U5 is just a miracle worker because of its pre-boost and its tone settings. You can dial in tone settings for acoustic guitars, electric guitars, basses, etc., but we've found a wonderful tone for his acoustic. And also this functions as a fantastic DI with two XLR outs in the back, which allow one to go to his mixer so that he can mix his own effects in, just like his electric guitar, but also a separate XLR out to go to front of house so that we have separate control over his guitar sound at front of house and monitors.